Welcome to the Business Miracles Podcast. I'm Heather Dominick, founder of BusinessMiracles.com. Since 2010, I've been training highly sensitive entrepreneurs and leaders from around the globe to work less while making more impact and income by doing things differently. I'm so glad you've joined me. Listen in and get ready for a shift in the way you view yourself, your work, your life. A business miracle. This is A Course in Business Miracles podcast, episode 140, The Joy of Selling. In this episode, I'm sharing some of the biggest blocks for us highly sensitive entrepreneurs when it comes to marketing and selling, the tools I've personally used to successfully break through these blocks, and the key to shifting your selling experience from being stress-filled and anxiety-ridden to one of ease and, wait for it, believe it or not, even fun. So what I'm going to highlight is the inspired idea and working from the highly sensitive strength of creativity rather than getting caught in the highly sensitive shadow of perfectionism. When we are in those shadows of perfectionism, which then also tend to spiral into the shadow of analysis paralysis, then everything else becomes a priority, right? The laundry, doing the dishes, needing to go down the block to get a cup of coffee, calling Aunt Margie, versus, oh, this is something that excites me and I'm going to work from that highly sensitive strength of creativity versus getting caught up in the shoulds, what the other 80%ers are doing, and then therefore, again, perfectionism and analysis paralysis. Because highly sensitives tend to avoid what's actually right in front of us, which are the people we are already currently connected to. And we go for these big, flashy 80%er ideas of like, I have to be doing a wide net out on social media, or I have to be investing tons of money to be able to, make Facebook ads work for me. And that is ignoring one of our massive, highly sensitive strengths, which is that we do really well making intimate connections. Write that down. And the reason we tend to avoid those intimate connections is fear of B&B, being visible and vulnerable. Oh, but I have to be flashy. I have to make sure that my identity is super shiny. I have to be in overprotection and my coping mechanisms versus I'm going to be visible. I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to work with the connections that I currently have. Being able to work that consistency of connection, communication, call to action, and consistency. That is the inner and outer combination that we're always speaking to in the highly sensitive leadership training program. You're doing the inner work simultaneously while taking the outer actions. It just makes sense for us as highly sensitives. So if you're still kind of telling yourself the story of I have to energy manage for the next, 3,000 days, and then I'll be ready to prioritize selling, it's never going to happen. The energy management is actually going to be more powerful and effective by partnering it with the outer actions, and the outer actions are going to be more powerful and effective by partnering it with the energy management. One of the things that Dr. Aaron says is that as highly sensitives, we're not only afraid of being overwhelmed, we're afraid of even the possibility of being overwhelmed. It's if I actually take this next step, even if I can identify it, then it's all going to happen way too fast. And I don't know if I'll be able to handle the snowball. Managing that fear of the possibility of the overwhelm, of being able to handle it versus that small step. They're connected, but they're separate. So the first is just the value of identifying that fear of the possibility of overwhelm. just identifying it, right? Because by identifying it and then languaging it, what that does is it moves it from internal to external. And with the moving of that fear from the internal to the external through the languaging, it becomes less powerful. And then we can begin to work with it proactively, working with that fear. So first, again, through the identifying is, I'm just going to bring us back to Dr. Aaron's research, right? Is that again, it's been researched and identified. This is a highly sensitive experience. Not only, again, potentially fear of overwhelm, but fear of even the possibility of overwhelm. The good news is that here in Business Miracles and in the highly sensitive leadership training programs, we have the elements, the program elements to support within the tools. So my recommendation would be let's start to work with this proactively. And let's call on that consistency to support with that. Now, I know personally I have done this, and it's something then I can have now as a touchstone to go back to. So I personally, now I think close to 10 years ago, dedicated 100 days to changing the way that I related to the fear of potentially being overwhelmed. Personally, I did that through auto writing because that was a tool that worked well for me. But you could literally use any of the energy management tools. You could do a daily OFTU about the fear of potentially being overwhelmed. You could do daily scripting about how to manage the potential fear of overwhelm that day. You could use auto writing, like I shared. You could do the BTT because literally it is a limiting belief. You could also use the shame transformation tools, doing a shame dump about why do I have to even have this experience of I'm feeling the possibility of overwhelm, right? So a buffet to choose from. What's of value is to dedicate that consistency, to change that current neural pathway firing of the nervous system that's literally just trying to protect you. The second piece is that through this core practice dedication, the ideas, the inspired ideas for the next baby steps are actually going to be more accessible to you. So it's not I need help with identifying the next step. It's I need support with my nervous system to give myself permission to take that next step and to trust that I will be safe. So for myself, one of the things that came out of that 100 days, again, over 10 years ago, was a mantra that I still use. It's a reminder that's on my phone, which is my business is expanding and I am safe. Mm-hmm. There really is such important power in that mantra that I just shared with all of you, because it's totally ignored by the 80%. The non-highly sensitives are build, 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 expand, expand, expand. Your business isn't valuable. You're not valuable if you're not growing. Totally leaving out the element for us as highly sensitives, which is everything that we've just been talking about, which is WTF, what's going to happen with all of this expansion that y'all are trying to cram down my throat, right? So the mantra is one thing, but again, I want to emphasize that I got there through 100 days of dedication. So we do the energy management work to go from the understanding to the knowing. And then prioritizing selling is easier because it's less scary.
Thank you for being a part of this Business Miracles podcast episode and for beginning to dip your toe into the journey of highly sensitive leadership training. If you are ready to truly use your sensitivities as strengths in all parts of your work and life, I invite you to connect for a one-on-one chat. You will experience being deeply listened to, and together we'll get a sense of whether the highly sensitive leadership training programs are the best next step for you and your highly sensitive journey at this time. Just go to www.claritycall.com to schedule a conversation. We so look forward to connecting with you. Talk to you soon.